I will try to be fast and also to give a room for Q&A if it's the case. But today I will try to delve deeper into the topic of first-person filmmaking based on the example of my film, My Uncle Tudor, which you just watched. And before I started studying cinema in 2011, and before this film, I made only films about other people. And it was my first experience of doing film on a personal subject. But what is it, a first-person documentary? It's, generally speaking, it's any non-fiction film in which director exposes his, her subjective point of view and experience on personal or global matters. And often first-person films are also autobiographical films, in which the director also reveals fragments of his, her own private life or the life of people who are close to him or her. And this implies a set of challenges, and I organized them in 4 big questions. First is the distance. How to find the distance and how to be a filmmaker and the protagonist who drives the film at the same time. The second question is how to sell the film. How to sell a film on such a personal and subjective experience. The third question is technical. How to film first-person film and how to find the balance between the quality and subjective camera closeness with the other characters of a film, but also how to not lose control of yourself while filming a subject which is so close and personally touches you. The last 4 question is ethical challenge. And I said it like how to find the right balance between telling the important thing, but also to remain the director who grants the safety of the protagonists. So these questions I will try to answer by telling about my experience of working on My Uncle Tudor. And I came up to idea of this film in 2019 when I was a student at DocNomads, working on my last project, graduation project. And at this moment, my friend and colleague Anna Artemieva showed me an interview with Alexander Rastorguev. It's a Russian filmmaker who was killed in Africa around 5 years ago. And in this interview, he told that your film should start with your biggest pain. This made me think about my own past, specifically about painful memory of abuse which I experienced at the age of 9 and that I kept secret for 20 years. And I knew that this film, my graduation project, is the last possibility to talk about this, because I could experiment. I didn't have to search for a producer. I had the freedom, and at the same time, I have a lot of support from my teachers and colleagues, so I didn't have to face this past alone by myself. But also, for me, cinema and cinematic language is so complex and rich that only in this way I could tell about my feelings. So the pre-production of a film lasted for 5 months. During this time, I did the script development, the development of a production file. I made the budget of a film, but also I participated in pitching forums. At the same time, it was very difficult to find the distance and to alienate from the subject. So my professor from Belgium, Roel van de Winkel, recommended me to make an academic research on child abuse in order to delve into this topic. And I decided to make specifically an autoethnographic study, which is like a first-person film, but in academics. Because an autoethnography is a form of research in which an author uses self-reflection to explore personal experience and to connect them to wider cultural, political, and social meanings. This research not only helped me to understand the topic, but and gain knowledge that lied on the basis of my film, but also to find the distance and to see my story as an universal social phenomena rather than a purely personal experience. In the end, the results of this research are included in the film in the form of statistics. Also, the knowledge acquired during the research helped me to argument the importance of a film. and the universality of my story while I was participating in pitching forums. At the same time, the topic was so heavy that without this research, I wouldn't find strength to talk about it publicly and to prove that I will handle the shooting. For a long time, I couldn't find the form and style of a film because for me it was very important to use specifically the possibilities offered by first-person filmmaking, specifically the subjective perspective in which I could integrate my point of view and feelings. And I wanted to talk about my memories poetically and expressionistically. So each color, element, camera movement had to evoke emotions, express moods and ideas and feelings, rather than just describe the reality and support the textual information. And I could find the style after watching a Dutch film, Love with Potatoes, by Alona van der Horst, in which the filmmaker goes back to Russia in the house of her grandparents. And in her film, the house becomes the main protagonist of the film. So in this way, I also tried to give life to the house of my great-grandparents, and through its walls and cracks and the spider webs and decorations to talk about my feelings. In the beginning, I decided, after many consultations, I decided to have a DOP with me because I thought that it's important to have somebody neutral on the shooting, somebody who could keep distance and handle the situation in case I become too emotional. But then pandemic started and our flight tickets were cancelled and I had to go there alone by myself. But in the end, I think that it was a good decision because I could delve into my inner world and merge it with the shooting, but also to keep the privacy and intimacy with my family and family members, which was very beneficial for the film. Another important thing was that holding the camera helped me to create physical barrier between me and the reality in front of the camera. And when I had camera in my hands, I wasn't a protagonist anymore. I was a filmmaker, following the reality from a side. And the shooting period lasted for 10 days. The pre-production was 5 months. The shooting was 10 days, but I lived in the house where I was shooting the film. So I could focus each second of my life on the shooting process and film anytime when something important was happening. Also, the written script was for me like a plan which guided me and which I used as a kind of cheat sheet when I ran out of ideas. But at the same time, I tried to keep the space for improvisation and freedom for reality to strike me as a filmmaker and as a protagonist at the same time. I also tried to be honest while filming, and I didn't make any hidden recordings. And I tried to talk with my family members about my memories, because for me it was important to break the silence in my family and to make sure that I will raise awareness about the dual personality of my uncle, which is one of the main protagonists of the film. And this shooting was really like a journey that changed me and my family. And this is in the film. It is an important part of the film, this change. The post-production lasted for 1.5 months because it was very dynamic and very fast because I had a fresh memory of acquired footages. So the first rough cut was done in 1 week. But at the same time, after this rough cut was done, it was very hard to give up to a few scenes which I liked a lot, but which didn't serve to the story. So in this case, it was very helpful that I had a couple of great consultants who regularly watched the materials with me and gave me advices with a fresh and distant eye. So after 9 months of intensive work in total, when the film was done, the most difficult part of this process came up, that I needed to show the film to a wide audience, a film which was on such a personal topic, which I kept secret for 20 years and I didn't talk about even with closest friends. So I knew that it's very important to find the right platform to share my story and for the premiere of this film. So based on the knowledge acquired during DocNomads, I knew that first I need to apply to top film festivals. But each festival wants to have a film premiere, the world premiere, so you cannot send to all festivals your film and wait till one will answer. And in this case, I acted intuitively because I saw that the submission to Berlinale was open, and I dreamed for a long time to visit this festival as an ordinary guest, as an audience. And then I wanted a lot to try to submit the film, and the application fee was quite high. It's like 75 euros, and with this money you can apply to 3-4 festivals and to get at least to one of them. But while reading about the submission condition, I found out that film schools have discounts. And the film school can submit 10 films with 250 euros, which is like a good discount. So I gathered my colleagues who wants to apply to the film, and we got this discount. And my film was selected and even got the prize, the Golden Bear. And then it was very rewarding, but also very stressful, because my film suddenly got lots of attention and I had to speak with journalists, with different people, with friends, and even with my ex-classmates about my past, which I avoided to talk and remember for many years. And again, the academic research made during the pre-production helped me to find the right words and terminology to talk about my film. And after world premiere, successful world premiere, I decided to make the distribution of this film by myself because I was afraid to lose the control on the film. Also because I had a quite bad experience with the first journalist who wrote about the film, who just copied the harshest parts of the dialogues, translated it to Romanian language and made them public, without giving a context to this dialogue, which was for me very important. So based on this experience, I knew that it's very important how I talk about the film, where I present it, and how what is it written about this film. That's why I decided to make the distribution by myself. And after Berlinale, I got lots of invitations from film festivals, but I tried to build a kind of strategy by myself. And each time when I got an invitation from a film festival, I made the research, what is the level of this festival, which other festivals are in the region, because for me, I decided that it's important to make national premieres also at the best festivals from each country. So every time when I got an invitation, I was doing a research of our festivals from the region. And if this festival was not so well known, I was trying to apply to submit my film to a bigger festival from the region, and then to decide on the invitation which I got. I also made the trick that I was opening the Google Maps, and I made pins on countries where I had national premieres, and when I didn't, and on countries where I didn't make the premiere of my film, and sometimes I was submitting directly through the festival platform, but sometimes I was writing to festival programmers directly, and this helped me to avoid in some cases the payment of application fee, which saved me lots of money. So these tricks which I used during the distribution of the film, and it's interesting that even after more than 1 year of when the film was released, I still get invitations from film festivals, and they even it acquires awards. So this was my experience with my uncle Tudor. And in this experience, I learned that personal experiences can become universal important stories. And that's why I decided to do my first feature documentary, also based on my personal story. It's a story about my grandmother, who was a child of Second World War, and she died of suicide in 1989, the same year that the Soviet Union collapsed. I never met her, but for me it was important, it is still important, to understand her story and to understand how this family legacy formed me today. And again, I decided to combine it with the academic research. So I do a PhD on post-memory and transgenerational trauma of Second World War in post-Soviet society. And this research I will combine with a feature documentary about me going to Russia and exploring my roots and exploring how big history affected the individual life of my family members, including me. And this film will be also based on the letters of my grandmother, which she wrote during Soviet Union since 1982 till 1989 to my father. Yeah, so now we can have questions.
Well, it was a quite detailed explanation packed with information. Still, maybe any of the participants would like to present a question about what Olga said or something else. So, anything? Who would like to start?
Yeah, okay. I'd like to ask you a question. Thank you very much for that excellent summary, and it's really very interesting for us, particularly me, on how you connected the research with the filmmaking. I was very pleased to be to witness this discussion, as it were, because I'm working with some students who are involved in practice-based research. So can you tell me something, or us something more, about your PhD and how you're connecting your research into post-memory and trauma with how that inspires or informs your filmmaking?
Yeah, and I think that even for filmmakers who are not involved in the research field, it's very important to make a wide research on the topic before doing the film, because then you gain more knowledge to make the basis of the film. Because same if when I made my uncle Tudor, but scientific research helped me to break the stereotypes even for me. And I understood that all my knowledge are based on very narrow statistics, which are reported to officials and not to the social phenomena, which reflects the 80% of cases of abuse. So for me it was very helpful and in this way. And with my current research, I tried to combine the research of audiovisual field with social field. So my research starts with the analysis of films on Second World War, because for me it's important how these films formed the memory of Second World War on contemporary society. And through the film, I'm trying to bring the memories which were neglected, individual memories of families which are neglected by big history, but are very important to research because they affect the life of the families. And it's not only about post-Soviet society, but also about Germany, about Belgium, all countries which suffered of Second World War and which still suffer of these secrets and and impossibility to talk about heavy family heritage. So this was my way of connecting this audiovisual field with research field, and the film is related to the research, and research is also related with audiovisual field as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's lunchtime, but still have a bit of time to for a couple more of questions. If anyone would like to step in, I guess your presentation was very informative.
Yeah, I tried to make it more theoretical based on my film, because of course I don't know if I don't know if people.
You covered everything from research until distribution, so it was very. Although I think the question presented by Ellen is I think is nowadays very important for students of film, because pursuing not only the PhD but even the master, depending of the characteristics of the courses in the schools, but the academic part is also related somehow, is a component. So it's not something that it's to be forgotten.
But you know,
yes.
even if, when I was thinking about my master thesis, I thought that I need to do something related to cinema, you know, I don't know, to make research on first-person filmmaking rather than so distant field for me, because child abuse, it's not about cinema. But making research about this phenomena was more important and more interesting for me, because then I could understand the social phenomena, which was the film about.
And it's necessary to put things in perspective, especially if you are dealing with a particular local subject, not the topic, because this topic, if we consider it as a topic, it's quite wide.
Yeah.
And especially nowadays became very, very present, or at least the attention to the phenomenon. But anyway, artistic research is many times for students that are very much into the art or into the making of films, and for them it's a bit difficult to work on that mode, so to speak. But is quite rewarding as well, because it's not only because you enrich your information, but I think it gives you also perspective and sometimes even distance. You were referring this word distance, which is something that the filmmaker has to have, especially in documentary, as you know, because we are dealing with real people and real situations. And when it becomes personal, of course, it's difficult to have that distance. But without distance, it's very hard to make films, or at least films that we can share with anyone else. Without distance, you can do private films, home films, but it's difficult to make films for a wider audience, of course. Yes, but well, I'm already talking. It's supposed to be our guests. Okay, anyone else would like to present, or should we go for lunch? Maybe it's lunchtime. Okay, from me, it was good to have you here, Olga. Thank you for being in this talk and share your thoughts and comments and experiences. And also thanks for the participants that showed up, and I hope it was informative or useful, helpful somehow for you, and see you next time.